I'm going to bring in Nicole Austin-Hillery, who is on the line with us, the brand new president and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Congratulations and welcome, Nicole. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for
Hi.
having me. And thank you
Yeah,
to the
I'm glad that
NAACP for hosting this conversation.
it's good to have you here. So look, you are now with the CBC Foundation. I know there's a whole lot of historical context here, certainly with the caucus. Just start off by giving us your reflections on how this moment is going to play out in Washington and beyond.
This moment is going to change the trajectory for all of us. And when I say all of us, I don't just mean Black people. I mean people of all ethnicities, races, religions, sexual orientations, and not just here in the United States, but globally. Because the rest of the world looks to the United States for how we should shape a democracy, to how we ensure diversity, and how we ensure equity. And having an African-American jurist on the Supreme Court is going to send a resounding message to the world that this is a country where opportunities are made, where equity is taken seriously, and where leveling the playing field is something that we are serious about. And just like we saw the rest of the world follow suit in the United States when we rose up to speak up and speak out after the death of George Floyd and after the deaths of so many other African Americans in this country, the world looked to us for their playbook, and it sent a ripple effect. And that's what we're going to see. So this is bigger than just us. This is bigger than just this country. This is a global shift for the world.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And the representation, we can't even talk enough about how important it is that we have the representation and it mattering. And certainly, the work of the Congressional Black Caucus is constantly trying to amplify how important it is that we actually have leaders who are at the helms of government and, the various branches that are doing the work from a multiplicity of lived experiences. I'm curious if you can speak to what you expect to come to pass from a policy front. Are you imagining now that the advocacy strategies might ramp up or change around some of the issues that are important to Black folks particularly, but now that there will be a justice who might be willing to hear some of these cases, that there'll be a different approach to getting things in front of the Supreme Court because she's there?
Well, look, the numbers speak for themselves. Even though Judge Ketanji Brown is going to add an important critical voice to the court, it is still going to be a court where it is majority conservative. But here's the thing that is so important to recognize, that even when the court is swayed in one way versus another, having jurists that have different experiences, that can bring a new set of intellectual heft and ideas and ways of thinking to the court can change things. We have to look at history. When Brown versus Board of Education was before the court, if you had asked prognosticators to tell us whether that decision would come out positive, for the individuals who were seeking to desegregate the schools in the United States, they probably would have told us no. They probably would have said, don't put your money on that. But having jurists on the court who were open to thinking differently, who were open to hearing both sides, who were open to change, made a difference. When Chief Justice Warren was appointed to the Supreme Court, he was not seen as a judge who was liberal or progressive. No one would have assumed that he would have been the Chief Justice who would have made a difference and who would have said, yes, separate but equal is not right in this country, and we need to make a change. So when you have voices like Judge Ketanji Brown, who are going to be on the court, who have lived different experiences, who have represented people who have walked a different path, and who understand that those differences are really what make up the potpourri, if you will, of what makes the United States, I think she will have a critical role to play in being able to influence the other members of the court and help them to see things that perhaps they may not have seen before because of their different lifestyles, because of their different experiences. That's what diversity is all about. When we talk about diversity in all realms, the courts, the schools, in housing, in our legislators, That's what diversity brings. It allows us to think differently and to have exposure to experiences that perhaps we would have never had before. And it creates empathy and openness. That's what she's going to change by being on this court.
Indeed. Real quick, I have one more minute with you, but you just brought to mind for me the value of the dissenting opinion, which, as you're saying, the numbers are what they are right now. There's still going to be a majority on the court that probably won't move on voting rights, but what is crafted, the language that's written in those dissenting opinions, certainly in and of itself can go on to be a precedent. So can you speak a little bit to that and how we as organizers, activists, journalists that are covering, and just people who are trying to continue to drive social justice might want to pay attention to some of the things that come down and are said and written, even if they aren't the majority opinion?
The thing that is so what I call beautiful about the law, and I'm a lawyer, so I'm a little biased, but the thing that is so beautiful about it is that it creates a record. And so when you talk about dissenting opinions, those opinions create a record. And we know that the fight for equal rights, whether we're talking about voting rights, housing rights, equal education, health equity, it is a slow and steady race. And so building a record under the law is critically important. So those dissenting opinions, while they may not rule the day in a particular case at the moment, those dissenting opinions are creating a record upon which we can build, upon which we can reference and utilize to help tell the story and create a line of cases and a line of jurisprudence that can be relied upon later. That's how our justice system works. And we know that there have been jurists like the late, great Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who have had hallmark dissenting opinions that have done just that, and that have been not only a record that could be built upon by lawyers in other cases, but it also serves to change public opinion. We have to remember the court is not just about deciding cases. It is about helping to set how we think and how the public views issues. So those dissenting opinions have the possibility of changing how we think as a country, how people treat one another, how people then utilize the ways, options that are available to them in their own communities to build bridges, to close gaps, and to create more equitable opportunities. So again, her role as a jurist will be far-reaching and will be so impactful in myriad ways. And really what we want is to change people's hearts, minds, and thinking. Indeed. That's what's going to change this country, and that's what's going to change the world when it comes to equity around race and justice.
Nicole Austin-Hillery, new president and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Thank you so much for all of your insights. Appreciate you joining us today. I am going to bring in now my friend Keith Boykin, who we have here on the line, who is an author, a journalist. You see him on